right.
All right, so welcome to Make Your Own Fun. I am here with Natalie Sierra, and this is going to blow your mind, folks. She is the author of Charlie Forever and Ever, a poetry collection called Medusa, and the forthcoming Beyond the Grace of God coming out next year. So, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So, I got to ask the hot button topic because this is big literary news that just broke the other day. So, what can you tell us, if anything, about the new book?
Sure. Well, it's a horror and erotica intertwined tale of vampires.
Ooh, very nice. Was there anything that's kind of like pre-existing that kind of inspired that for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I love like Clive Barker, and I always kind of wanted to do something along similar lines. And I had written a short story collection, and I didn't like quite care for it, but there was the one story, and it's the two vampires meeting for the first time. And I was like, I really like those characters, like I want to do something more with them. And so during the pandemic, when everything was shut down, I was like, I revisited that story and just started typing away.
Awesome. Well, it's a huge accomplishment, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, and I have to ask for a lot of other people that may be thinking about dipping their toe in novella or novel writing. So, I guess trying to, think about, let's say from when you first had the idea, do you first started putting pen to paper, or, this is me typing. I don't type
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
high in the air, but from when you first got the idea until you got the manuscript approved by the press, how much time do you think passed?
I finished the novel in 2020. So pretty much right when the shutdown started to, I think it was like in September. So from February to September, this is like a constant every single day sitting down and typing. And then finishing. I usually finish things pretty quickly. Um, because I try to ride that wave as long as possible. But I did hold off on it because I wanted to find a publisher for it as opposed to self-publishing. I have self-published before. I don't have a problem with that. I just was really adamant, like this story needs to see a publisher. I don't want to be the only one. So yeah, so from 2020 to 2024, yeah, it was.
And it's so good that you talk about things and explain things like that because so many people get discouraged because they think they're going to have this overnight success, or that it's going to happen quickly, or there aren't going to be hurdles and stumbles. And if anybody out there has been published before, they know that there's this long process called editing. It
Yes.
takes a long ass time, and sometimes you have many hands in the pie, and you have like several levels.
Mhm.
So whew, so I'm just really proud for you. That's like I said, an awesome accomplishment. And I know you can't divulge too much about it, so we'll move on from here and we'll hop back in your Wayback Machine of choice. And I'll say, so when do you think you started writing poems and stories? And the second part of that is, how soon after that do you think you started sharing your work in public?
Well, I definitely started like around middle school. Um, and it was kind of just like a way to, I was writing poetry to just kind of deal with like, the world around me. I didn't really share any of it. But I also had dreams of becoming a rock star. So it was like, so I gotta be like my idol, I have to be like Jim Morrison. I'm gonna write poetry and I'm gonna be, a beatnik in, in LA. Of course, that doesn't work out the way I wanted it to. But it did get me into the mindset pretty early to begin writing and trying to find my own style.
Awesome. Now, did you start kind of like with just like friends, like sharing stuff like that, or was it more like writing projects with friends, or like open mics? What was kind of like your
Um,
way to like share
yeah,
this?
I would collaborate with some of my friends. Like we used to send each other poetry and just kind of like oh like this is cool. This is what I like about this, as teenagers and young adults. And then uh, I did go to a few open mics, but not too many. I self-published, I think my first collection in 2014. I hadn't really like done too many poetry events or gone to too many open mics, just because the nature of my work is always been on the more erotic side. And so sometimes, yeah, sometimes it's not the same, it's not the vibe for some poetry events.
But you
Although
know
I
what?
don't
I
care
mean,
now. Now I
yeah.
go out there and I'm like, and I read my work, and even if it doesn't fit with the vibe, I love to do what I do, and I am a performer at heart. So I'm out there.
And I would just say, if they are promoting you and you're the featured reader and you're the one that has your book propped up on the table, it's like they should know. They should know like who you are, what your work is. They should have done like a little bit of research and just figured that out. And I can't imagine there's going to be like any Puritan mothers out there like still like the 1950s, like clutching their pearls or whatever,
Not
like
anymore.
yeah,
Not anymore. At least I'm hoping.
yeah. And I mean, if you hear any flack from anybody, they're just jealous.
You
So
know, I don't like to say it, but it's probably true.
oh yeah, oh yeah. There's always professional jealousy. They're like, how dare she do things and express herself and get rewarded and paid for it?
Yes, that
Um,
is a real thing for sure.
it's true. So building on that, with having novels published, I am curious, just what are some pointers you have for reading sections of a novel in public? Like, how do you go about knowing, like, well, I should only maybe read a couple paragraphs or like a summary, or you don't want to give like too much away for people that are going to buy the book. So, what's the process for that?
Well, for Charlie Forever and Ever, I do have two sections that I almost always read from, because they're pretty short, but they're self-contained, and they and then I will give like a little bit of the backstory before I go into the passage that I'm about to read. But yeah, I try to keep it short, especially because it could be very dense, in what I am reading. And yeah, so I like to, like I said, I read a lot of erotica, so I put on the scene for them so that they know what they're getting into if they haven't previously read any of my work.
Okay. And how involved, let's say, is the publisher or the press in the sense of, when you do, interviews or when you do readings or open mics, do they have a word or like I don't want to say like just kind of advice or something where they say, well, maybe don't read this section. We don't want to give away like, it's kind of like a movie trailer. You never want to give away the best parts in a movie trailer. You want the people to go to the movie and see the movie and not be spoiled. So, are they really adamant about like don't read these sections because these could be major spoilers? And if you're there, you know, reading this at like a Barnes and Noble or something, people are like, oh, well, I guess I don't have to buy the damn book now.
No, actually, the press is pretty hands off, which I'm thankful for. They don't really like tell us, do this, don't do that, don't do that, things like that, which, like I said, I'm thankful for that. I mean, and the nature of my work is it's almost always been erotic. So the passages I'm reading are self-contained scenes, and it's not really like I'm divulging too much. Although I do compare, I'll say this book is like these two books. If you've ever read it, or if you watched these movies, it's along similar lines. So just
Okay,
to at
and
least give them a little flavor of that.
fair enough. And are there different ways that you think about promoting the book? Have you thought about doing like a little 2 minute animation or I don't know. I don't want to say like acting things out with puppets, but maybe acting things out with puppets. But you know what I mean? Like we're in an age now, especially coming out of COVID, where it's like it's really hard to get people to come to readings and to open mics. I mean, especially people like over 50, 60 years old that might have like medical conditions. So I guess that just dovetails right into my next question, which is how crucial do you think social media is right now for promoting authors?
It depends, I think for sure. Social media has gotten me, I was able to find my press that way because I had like a really bad experience with the manuscript for Charlie with the previous publisher. And I was just devastated because I had thought, I was like, oh, I'm going to get published, and it fell through. And I was really upset. It was my first novel. So I took to Twitter and I was like, oh, I'm just really, sad right now because I thought that I was going to get my book published and, the deal didn't go through and, just lamenting online. And Flower Song, which eventually published Charlie, they saw my tweets and they were like, well, we'd love to take a look at your manuscript. And I was like, immediately sending it. So I sent it to them. And then like a few days later, they were like, we love it. We'll publish it. And I was like, oh, God bless. Thank you.
That's
And
awesome.
through them, I met, a lot of the poets, and we've all toured together. So that made it easier as well because some of them had a much larger reach than I did.
Mhm.
So if I were to try to do an event by myself, maybe there's not as many people. But because there's 5 poets, that have some of them have very large reaches and they've gone to, universities, museums, like things like that where they perform, there's a bigger audience, a wider audience coming to our events.
Okay, that's
So
fair
yeah,
enough.
yeah. Social media can be a game changer for sure, but you definitely have to work at it. We have to be our own publicists as well as, authors and editors and everything else.
It's so true. So going back, can you kind of recall like a workshop maybe you took or a writing prompt that you got something like out of your comfort zone that you would normally write or try in order to try something new to kind of just like, like maybe you just got in this mindset of maybe you were writing the same kind of thing or same kind of genre, or and you just like, I maybe you wouldn't have normally signed up for a workshop or gone to something like that, and then somebody maybe twisted your arm and they were like, you need to do this, you need to get out of your own head.
Yeah, well, I my collection of poetry called Medusa. It is a departure from what I normally write. And it's the myth of Medusa, and I talk about I made it modern, although it's still like a play, and it's set in Pomona, where I'm from. And it deals with themes of sexual assault and things like that. So to me, that is a very important topic. And I had written some of the poems, but I didn't really know what to do with them. And there was a poet friend named Nikolai, and he told me about Distill Arts, and they're a small nonprofit in LA, and they help people publish their chapbooks or collections of poetry, short stories, things like that. And through Distill Arts, they helped me.
So, yeah, you were mentioning about being from Pomona, and I wanted to kind of piggyback on that and say,
Mhm.
when did you kind of make the jump from kind of like local open mics or readings to taking that leap and going to like other cities and trying out your stuff? Because I always love these stories where people either they feel like they're a big fish in a small pond, or they're like real meek about it and they're like, oh geez, and then they get to someplace else and they're like really accepted. So do you kind of remember when you like got your friends together like a movable feast and you went to like another reading outside of your comfort area?
Yeah, well, I mean, I did start in Pomona, absolutely, and I love the scene there. But I had done them all already, and so I felt like I just kept going back to the same ones. And so when I published Medusa, I started going out to LA. Pomona is about 30, 40 minutes away. and I would start to go to LA and just meet with more people and go to more poetry events in LA. And then when we published Charlie is when, because we were all together as Flower Song authors, we went nationally.
Okay. I mean, do you kind of remember when you were younger going to open mics and being like having that like first, or maybe when even younger than that, like having that like first access to poetry where it's like that Moon June Spoon like childish rhyming stuff, to when you went to, you know, a big city open mic somewhere at a coffee shop or something, and these people were like pouring their guts out on a microphone and they all have like pen names and crazy outfits, and you're just like, what is happening?
Well, I've always been the crazy outfit person just because I love to dress up. So
Hey, have you ever thought about having any of your work adapted for movies or television?
yeah, actually, Charlie, Forever and Ever, that is a book that my friend Lauren and I have dreams of adapting to a screenplay and eventually, putting it out there for the world to see.
Awesome. Yeah, I could totally see that. Is there something where you've reached out, like taken meetings or
No, not yet. We're in like
feelers?
the earliest stages. We we have plans of eventually filming a horror short. And I do have a screenplay for that I wrote. But right now everything is just kind of on hold. We both are super busy in our own personal lives, and so it's like, okay, we have this dream, we have our little horror short, and then one day to make a feature film, which would be Charlie.
Awesome. So I guess talk about a little bit maybe some of your influences. It seems like horror is a huge part of that. So were there authors or movies when you were younger that you kind of gravitated toward and you were like, ooh, I want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, Anne Rice is one of my top, favorite authors of all time. I think her work is just so phenomenal, and it's something that I read often, and I love to watch adaptations of her work, whether, it's like a little bit campy, maybe like Queen of the Damned, or I don't know if you've seen the new Interview with the Vampire series, but it is very well made and it's amazing. So I love it. She was always one of my biggest influences, whether, in film or reading her work. Isabel Allende is also one of my top favorite authors. And same thing, her works have been adapted for the screen. Uh, you know, maybe they're not Chilean actors, but, but I mean, I don't know. You can't really go wrong with Jeremy Irons. So not bad.
That's true.
um, yeah, her work is incredible. Especially The House of the Spirits is one of my favorite books. Again, it's something I go back to and read pretty often.
Do you
Um,
do you remember like when you were like elementary school, maybe middle school, was there somebody that like gifted you a book or a short story collection, or said like, "Ooh, this might be right up your alley," like a Stephen King short story collection or something, where it was like, "What is this?" You know? Do you have a moment like that?
um, I don't know. I was always a big reader. Throughout my elementary school, middle school, and high school, I always just went into the library and just discovered things there. I remember, I think a friend of mine in our high school library handed me the book Rebecca, and they were like, I think you would really like this. And I took that book home and I devoured it. It is so beautiful, and like every sentence is just perfect, and I was like, yeah, no, this is what I want to read, and this is how I want to write.
Very cool. Do you kind of see yourself in some other authors that maybe you've talked to that are kind of coming up where you've kind of gone through trials and tribulations and you've kind of like taken them aside and been like, hey, you know what? Like you're gonna do your own thing, but I've gone through this and it was like a pain in the ass, and so I'm just trying to help you and let you sit the signposts of like don't go down this road because it's just going to be heartache, and you know what I mean, like you kind of like see people making mistakes and you're just like maybe they're going to listen to you, maybe they're not going to listen to you, but anything like
I mean,
that?
not really. I don't. like to interfere too much. I do lead workshops, erotic writing workshops, and so I do give advice to other writers who are looking to start to write romance or erotica, or at least inject some into their work. And so I give them the advice, and I just tell them my own journey. Like, this is, what I went through. This is how I, found an audience. It takes time. It takes plugging away. Like, you can't just sit there. And I think we said it earlier. You can just expect an overnight success. It's a lot of work, and romance and erotica especially, because it can be done so wrong, so
It
easily.
turns into comedy really fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so let me ask you this, because we were talking earlier about social media, and so I guess I've just seen some train wrecks about that stuff, and it's just where do you draw the line of this is me promoting a version of myself to get word out about my books, and where is it like Natalie's personal life and my family and my friends, and I don't want to put them on blast or do stuff that's going to make them uncomfortable. So is there a fine line, or is that wall, that glass wall, just getting like thinner and thinner?
No, I definitely have a wall, especially because I know my audience, people that follow me for my work know, the nature of my work. So I do keep like my family life separate from what I post, or I won't even post my family at all. Like, on one social media site, I'll use a different one, or just keep it private, because I don't want, like, I have children, so I don't want to embarrass my kids, because
They're gonna be like, Mom,
exactly. Yeah.
eh,
Eh.
why are you doing that, Mom? I want to be with my friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's fair enough. So yeah, so you've done the poetry, you've done books. So is there anything else creatively that I mean, you kind of talked a little bit about maybe getting into screenplay writing, but is there anything you haven't tried creatively? Like, I don't know if you play an instrument or you're doing anything like that you're like, okay, well, I've checked this box, I've written a novel, that bucket list stuff, you've toured with your poetry books and things like that. So what haven't you tried that you're kind of like jonesing to get out there and do?
Oh, I mean, act. I used to do some acting in high school, like our school plays and stuff, and I always thought, like, I'm gonna be a rock star. I'm gonna be an actress. I'm gonna be touring the world doing, all these artistic things that I love. And just when I left high school, I just really never got back into it. And so that's always been something where if I had the chance to, I think I would dive back into that as well. Or if I could go back to high school, I would have probably continued with acting, because I felt like I was good at it, and it was something that I wanted to continue. I just never got around to it again.
Well, there's still plenty of time. I mean, people are making short films. I'm not sure what area of California you're in now, but there is literally so much stuff where you just look online, or just, I'm sure you have friends that are creators as well. And they're always looking for somebody to help.
Yeah.
And I always say, you know what, like maybe the first couple you offer to do something on the side, like, hey, I'll be the grip, or I'll stand there and I'll hold something, or I'll be the person bringing snacks to the set or whatever, because that puts it in their mind of like, this person is not only cool and easy to get along with, but they're reliable.
Yeah, no, for sure. Reliability, in any industry, is paramount.
It's so true. So let's see. So have you traveled across the country, or just stayed like locally in California, or have you thought about like when the new book comes out next year, are they thinking about like putting you like maybe pop-up shows at like bookstores in like New York, Chicago, Atlanta, Seattle?
Yeah, no, I have that in the cards when Beyond the Grace of God comes out. I did travel across the country for Charlie. but I didn't get to do as many events as I would have liked. We did a lot in California because most of us are based here. We went to New York, we went to up and down, like just all over California mostly. But I do want to go to Seattle. I want to go to Salem, especially because I feel like because of the nature of my work that it would be a perfect city to have like a horror romance, event with maybe other poets that write along similar lines. So that's kind of like what I'm envisioning, although it's still in the dream stages. It's not, tangible yet.
It'll happen. It'll happen if you
I
want it
think
to
so.
happen.
Fingers
You'll
crossed.
make you will make it happen. I don't even have to cross fingers and toes. I know it's going to happen for you. So you've hit the horror genre. Are there any other genres that you want to dabble with that you haven't tried yet? Like, comedy, romantic comedy, sci-fi, westerns. There's so many. There's so much out there.
Yeah, I do like dabble a little bit in sci-fi, but it's kind of already enmeshed in the work itself. Like Charlie Forever and Ever, for example, is I would say it's cross genre of sci-fi and romance. And I would love to get more into sci-fi. It's one of my biggest influences, besides horror. And but yeah, so far it's just been like little dabbles here and there, nothing spectacular. But I don't know. I guess I just write kind of like what I want to write, I don't feel as if I'm bound to stay in one genre.
Fair enough. Well, let me ask you this. Kind of put you on the spot, and I'll see how your brain works here with
Uh-oh.
horror and sci-fi. So I'm assuming you've seen these movies, because if not, then I'll just be like, whoops. But I'm assuming you've seen the Alien movies.
Oh, they're one of my favorites.
Okay, so like I was kind of happy with what they did with Prometheus, but like what they did with Alien Covenant, I was like, what?
So
So,
I haven't seen Alien Covenant,
oh,
but
okay.
I did really like Prometheus. I know a lot of people hate Prometheus, but I thought it was great.
Yeah.
But I'm also just not the biggest critic. To me, a film is supposed to make you feel a certain way, or maybe, I'm watching it to be entertained. I'm not always like, this is shit. They don't have the alien coming out of someone's stomach and, killing people again, or whatever,
Well,
whatever it is.
they
Like,
had to go back and they had to set everything up. So let me ask you this. So having not seen Covenant, which I don't have to spoil for you, but having seen Prometheus, what would you do for that story to get from Prometheus to like the original Alien? Like, what would you like to see those characters who survived Prometheus do or go? Or if someone gave you the reins and they were like, Natalie, like, give us a screenplay. What's your pitch?
Oh, okay. See, I was thinking like, oh my God, I'd probably have Michael Fassbender come back, as some type of AI or some type of, machine character who is the one that like ruins it for the rest of us. And then it'll even tie back into Alien because it's another like cyborg or, something with a nefarious purpose to get these aliens.
So
And
what's her name, Numi Rapace, like her character, she survived the whole ordeal and had that awful thing happen to her where she gave birth to the alien and all that gross stuff.
see,
What do
I
you
forgot
think?
about that.
Yeah, what do you think would be a good thing for her,
To
like after
smuggle
that?
that alien to Earth.
Okay, well, I don't know. I guess watch
That's her
Covenant.
baby.
Yeah, watch Covenant, and I'm sure you saw the trailers and Michael Fassbender's in it. So that's all I'm gonna say because I'm really curious. So many
So
people saw
now, see, so now
Prometheus
I
and they
have to
were
watch
like,
it.
all right, well, we'll wrap it up here. And I just wanted to say this has been awesome and ask you what's coming up next for you and where can the folks find you online?
Yeah, of course. I mean, coming up next is going to be Beyond the Grace of God. We don't have like a set publication date for it, but it's, winter 2025. So look out for that. I live on Instagram. I am I am always on Instagram, and that's at Pandora Demise with it's one word. And I use that across all social media. So Twitter, Instagram, Threads. It's all at Pandora Demise. So I'm always there. I'm online lurking.
Working like a true horror fan.
Yes,
Well,
exactly.
thank you so much for being on the show. You're delightful, as I knew you would be. This will be up on Wednesday the 6th. I have nothing but glowing nice things to say about you to
Oh,
everybody
thank
out there
you.
watching this.
Likewise,
You're
likewise.
oh awesome. You're the shit. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend and thank you so much for being on the show.
No, thanks for having me.
No problem. Have a good one.